Mic check, mic check. I'm really upset about all the people dying around me. I know. No, but seriously, they are. Yeah, it has been insane, crazy. Hey,
it's weird, man.
You get weird. You get uncomfortable when you talk about death.
I don't get weird. I just sometimes you just don't know how other people process it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, process grief.
I've given like every time I hit you up, the first thing you said was like, "Yo, we'll figure out the pod." I'm like, "That's not why I'm hitting you up."
I know.
Like so I didn't. I was like, I'll figure that shit can. That shit is something we'll always have. But like, you got to give people some time to process. And I didn't know. I mean, I know you obviously handle things with comedy, but I'm glad to see you making the joke, but it's still a little like you're like whoa, all right, what do I do there?
Yeah, I think that everybody processes grief.
Well, just
yeah.
So just like, I mean, you don't have to go into super detail, but
so basically, thank you all for kind of being patient.
I've had a couple people hit me up like, "Yo, what's up? Where's the pod?"
Yeah, I had like 3 or 4, and it was nice. So thank you for just kind of all the support. It has been really great. And the reason why we had to kind of, delay filming so briefly, my nephew died. It was very, very sad. And that just, it literally, I think when I first heard, it brought me to my actual knees. And I remember I was training and somebody told me, and it brought me like down right away. And then 2 days later, my wife's uncle died, and that was a really big hit because he was a really good man. He was a really kind, dude. And I think that, speaking for my family is, she didn't have a lot of examples of what a really good positive male role model is. So when you see a man like that who is very, very kind, silly, was very good to her, that's hard. And on top of that, we had some other business tragedy stuff happen, which sucks, and not anything that anybody has to worry about like that, but it was sad. And then I had to visit a friend who's not doing well either, and so it was a lot of things just kind of compiled. And I do deal with it with comedy, but I don't want to get crazy, funny and have people think it's like a sick joke, but you have to take the time to be there for people, right? Like I feel like it's really important to take the time, grieve, and really be there. And I'll say this, tragedy will happen, and you could focus on that side, and you could focus on the real darkness, the real, really, really dark shit. And my life has been a lot of that. So for me, I can handle it in a real positive way with how I've structured my life. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to always handle it the best. I did my fair share of, having a drink or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but I could tell you I did not self-destruct. I made sure that I was there for my friends. I was there for my family. I held them 5 to 10 minutes longer than I probably, should have, or maybe that's what they wanted. I cried with good friends, and I think that's important. But I also made sure that I was there for them in a real strength way. Like, hey man, you might not be able to pick yourself up, but I can, and I'll be there for you, and I'll take that. And I pride myself on that responsibility taking, because I do love my friends. I mean, seeing friends and family in pain is very hard. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm like, the guy, but being strong for people that you love is important. It's a good goal to shoot for, to be the most valuable one at a funeral. And I know that sounds morbid to some people, but think about it. If you're the person they can cry on, rely on, go get things, help them out, you have such a tremendous value to that person. If you're the one breaking down on the ground, they got to drag you out of the funeral home, you're not really adding much value to those people who are grieving as well. So my thing is I want to be the most valuable person I could possibly be when I see somebody go through pain. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't cry. That doesn't mean that you don't break down. That doesn't mean, but you do it in a way where you're not burdening other people. You have your own little support right here that helps you when you break down and cry at the sink. When you do that, you have people come and, you know, really put their hand on it. I had a kid or somebody that I don't even really like, you know, but I put that aside, and I remember being like, I got you, man. I was like, I'm here, and like to put that aside, you know, is huge too. So
it's crazy how like sometimes it takes something so life changing to you know, make you realize that a lot of that, like, you know, on the surface shit is just, you know, exactly that, just like on the surface shit of like, you know, like, hey man, I don't like, you know, I don't like you, but like
pain is pain.
Yeah. You have a different understanding. You come together in, you know, in grieving.
Yeah. It's important to remember, like you said before, everybody grieves differently, but it's really important to remember like what's actually important. There's certain people that you'll listen to and you'll follow, and because they're saying something very valuable, because they've already learned that lesson. Like they've already learned it, so then that way, that's why you pay attention so much to them. Like you're like, wow, that guy seems like he has it figured out, or whatever. Chances are that person has seen a lot of pain, and what they did was they didn't let it stop them from continuing to live with purpose, or to help, or to do that. So I've always found that I like look up to a lot of people who have that mentality. So I said, why not me? Like, why can't I do this? Like I can do it this way.
Yeah.
And when I did, it was, it felt really good, but it also, instead of me focusing on all the death and the tragedy, I said, look at all these people that came together, that cried, that I saw a lot of hugging. I have never seen that much hugging. I mean, that was a lovely thing. It seriously was. It was a lovely thing to see. That many people hug for that long, cry on each other's shoulders, tell each other, strangers. Like, I know they didn't, like, I'm being serious. It was an amazing thing to see people hugging. I think they needed it because of, you know, kind of what we've all been through these past 2 years. But it's also just the love. People had hope, you know what I mean? To see so many people come together at that time was one of the most amazing things I could see. And that was bringing me to tears. The tragedy, yes. But when you see something and you see people coming together, man, that is some of the most amazing things you'll see. And, you know, that's what I wanted to focus on more.
It's very human.
Yeah. It was,
the whole situation is very human.
Yeah.
You know, life, death, grieving. You know, it's like the one thing that we can all say we all have in common. Like, you know, you might not know anybody from whatever, but if you guys can connect on, like, you know, I had a grandmother that passed away. There's just, everybody is eventually going to have to deal with that. It's inevitable, you know, and sometimes it happens a lot sooner than we expect. And it's just like you said, it's one of those things where then you're happy you have the community you have around you that can be there to pick you up, or, you know, at least just kind of pick each other up until it's time to stand up again. And, you know,
what you see is that, like, a lot of death and tragedy can make men go two ways. And I'm speaking from me, like my own person, because I'm a man. I'm going to speak from my own personal experience. So we have two things that'll happen. It'll make you bitter, and you get pissed, and you start doing really dumb, self-destructive things. Or you pick up your suffering, you pick up and you kind of walk with it. And that's the OG shit. That's the type of people that are making YouTube channels that people can learn from. Those are the people making businesses. Those are the people really, part of those larger programs, those mentoring programs. Those are the people that you want to see. I don't think he'll mind that I said it, but my cousin is one of the funniest human beings on the planet. Like, I very rarely see him really beside himself, like really upset. And he got really upset and was obviously, very vulnerable, and he's a really good guy. He's one of my favorite humans on the planet. And he was really, really upset when I asked him. I said, "Hey, like, what's wrong?" He's like, he carries around a picture of our buddy who passed away in his pocket, and he pulled it out and he looked at it, and he said, "I never dealt with this before, man. Like, I never dealt with, having a buddy pass away, and I think about him all the time. He's just a funny dude." And the guy who passed away was one of the funniest dudes I have ever met. Like right away I bonded with him right away. Actually, I fake married him in Maine. It was really funny. We it was like just a joke, and it just kept going the whole week. And it's like now you have an inside joke. It's the best. So I'm married to a man. So and a woman. So hey, that's my choice. So my cousin, like I said, hadn't dealt with that. And then he looked at me.
The dude just passed away recently?
This guy passed away a couple months, almost like a couple months ago now. And my cousin's like, "I know you dealt with this type of stuff, like with friends and like family and really close friends and just tragedy." That he's like, "I'm not used to dealing with that, So
yeah.
So what I said is that it's not different. It's none of it is it all is the same. Sadness is sadness, but like it's how you learn from it and move away from it that could really help you. Because I don't want to have a bunch of people, every time I go to a funeral, every time I deal with like a tragedy, I go, it's me. You're not looking at them in the coffin. You're looking at yourself. I know that sounds crazy, but when somebody dies, the reason why you're so scared and so sad is because that's you one day. It's you, it's them, it's your uncle, it's this person, it's that.
Yeah, I think it's part of it.
It's part of it. Not all of it, but it's a multivariable. It's like that's you eventually. So you go, ugh, and you go, I got to talk to my mom more. I got to do this more. You start saying all these things that you won't do.
You have those realizations.
Yeah, some people actually learn from those experiences, and they look at the sky a little longer. They hang out with their daughters a little longer, or their sons. They tell their fathers that they love them more. They go on more vacations. They work less. So I always say, try to learn from those experiences, really learn from them, and put them into place. So I had the opportunity. I'm going to actually go see Jordan Peterson in May for my birthday. So I'm really excited about that.
Where?
It's in Boston. So
okay.
I'm excited about it.
Is he a Boston guy?
No, he's actually Canadian. But he's coming. He's touring the States. Then he goes over to the UK. So I had my lawyer call me, and I've been waiting for this date. Like I've been waiting for this date to talk to my lawyer, right? And he goes, "Hey, do you have May?" So like out of all the shit, he goes, "May 23rd. That's the meeting. It's going to be great." I go, "That's my birthday, bro." And I go, "I took that off to spend time with my family." And I go, "I'm not going to be there." And he goes, he knows me pretty well at this point. And he's like, "Really, Ben? Come on." And I'm like, "No, I'm making that boundary that's family time, man. That's time with, I can't be so accessible."
What's the meeting for?
It's just stuff it is something that I need to take care of. It's not on my part, it's on their part.
That time you got arrested naked at the bar?
Actually, I peed on the side of a bar, and the cop told me, he's like, "Hey,
hey man."
He actually said this.
You want a red strack?
By the Warner, and he's like, "Hey, put that away." He said put that away, and so I put it, and then I had pee-pee on my jeans.
You're in the headlights.
I had pee-pee on my jeans.
I'll take pee-pee on my jeans.
Then a ticket charge. And going to get in charge. I remember I was just like, oh no. But so it's about making those boundaries, and it's like I could have went like, oh yeah, that's fine. Let me cut this trip to Boston short. Even though I spent,
And that's the night of the show.
That's the night afterwards, but I balled out, man. I balled out for the show. I'll be honest. I don't even want to tell you how much I spent on a hotel because it's so stupid. But I was like, I'm gonna ball out because it's my birthday. I want to I'm gonna go get a nice
33.
Yeah, shit like that. It's just crazy.
No, you turned to 33.
How old am I? 34. I turned 34, bro. I'm almost dead.
Shaq, baby. Shaq numbers.
But it's like, I just wanted to spend that time, and it's like you want to learn from that. That's all, and it's like I'm trying to work a little bit less, being more effective, which is hard too. Try to like take away from stuff like that.
Was Shaq 34? Did I just fuck that up?
I think you fucked it up.
I think I might have fucked it up.
Yeah.
I gotta check that.
I don't think you know.
It'd be funny if I did.
You watch a lot of basketball?
No.
It's not fun. It's not fun for me to watch, you know? Just a bunch of 7-foot dudes dunking.
He was
you
34. I was right.
Okay, you were. Yeah, you're not crazy.
But no, I watch sports. So I don't have like a team. Like growing up in Connecticut, it was always weird. Like we didn't have a pro team. You know what I'm saying? So it was either like, okay, like yeah, we're part of. Well, yeah, that's why I'm such a. I'm an avid UConn fan. Like I fuck
women,
with
men and women.
Women
were the
yeah,
shit.
Women, yeah.
Because they were badass.
I'm telling you though, it got to the point where it was like it was amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it was just amazing. It was almost like okay, they won again, cool.
What was the other one? The real tall one.
There was Rebecca Lobo. There was what's her name, Diana Taurasi.
Yeah, her. Yeah. They were like
Maya Moore.
Yeah, they were.
I was in love with Maya Moore.
Were you?
Oh my god, she was so.
She the
cute.
pretty one.
She was very pretty.
Yeah. Because usually, female basketball players. No,
but it was.
It's not like volleyball.
But growing up at CT, we don't have like a team that we can like, and it was so weird for me growing up because, and I've learned that it's just a thing, but I still find it a little weird with sports.
What?
I always thought that the point of being a fan of a sports team was to rep where you're from.
Yeah.
So that like like.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
you see people are like, where are you from? Like Miami, but they're like New York fans.
Like my roommate, he's a Packers fan.
And you're like, why?
It's like why?
You gotta be Patriots.
There's got to be some sort of connection, and I was never used to making that connection to an entire team. I always made them to the players.
Until now.
No. Even now, I make the attachment that I have with the players. So it's
what
like
fan? What fan? Like what
team,
players
do I like?
What team are you like really into?
I don't have. That's the thing. I never got into a team. Like I was.
You're a
I'm
nomad.
like
You're a nomad through and through.
If I had to pick football, I always picked the Giants. I was always a Giants fan because I grew up and my old man was a Jets fan, and I was like, well, if you're gonna go to New Jersey, you might as well go
to New York. Yeah.
No. I mean, they're both in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Jets, but it's like if you're gonna go to, might as well pick the team that's actually winning every now and again. So I got 2 Super Bowls out of the deal, so that was cool, But it got to the point where
I love that you said I. That annoys the shit out of me.
What?
When dudes are like, yeah, we really
but that's what I'm just talking about the competition.
Did I see you on the field?
Yeah,
was that you?
Yeah. But and that's another thing too is like I have friends too, and I just never understood it because I genuinely enjoy watching sports.
Yeah,
it's really fun for me. Like a big game, like I don't really like baseball until playoff baseball, but then I can watch every game of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Basketball is sort of similar. I dig a game every now and then, but I don't get too into it until it's the playoffs. Soccer, I usually get. I'm into soccer. Soccer's fun to watch, but I'm not like a massive fan.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Soccer's hard to keep up because there's so many leagues.
Like what's the score? 0-1. Yay!
I thought that too until I've attended soccer games and I've been at like soccer parties where like the entire I grew up in a Peruvian family.
That's
so,
badass.
When we would watch, it was amazing. It was like the chants and shit. Like
watching
energy.
It's sometimes like golf.
Yeah.
It's sometimes.
Yeah, no, I can see why it gets boring.
It's like what's the score?
Like I said,
0-0.
So baseball is boring to me until playoff time when everything is on the line and it's like, okay, cool.
Because you could feel that tension. You could feel the tension.
But yeah, like I just
fighting is where it's at though. Fighting and boxing.
Is fun. I think fighting is fun because but that's the same thing with that. Like you fall in love with certain fighters that you like and you want to see people win.
You used to be able to fall in love with like teams, like he's part of top team, or he's part of But now what I find, how they do it is they do it by location.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know, so. What they do is like you'll see certain fighters and they'll go, they're gonna fight a Mohegan Sun. Most of those people are from New England,
for
around there. And then if you go down in Florida, most of the people will be from there. So I didn't know that. I just thought they just had them wherever.
Yeah.
That's how stupid I am. But then now what I've noticed is they'll go, we're gonna put you here. And you'll go, why? Go, you actually are like trending over there, or they use you a lot
it's
over
all
there.
About analytics. Yeah, for sure.
Jarnell Lugo, who was on the podcast, who's in like an 8-win streak in Bellator, is I think this weekend he's fighting in this weekend it's this weekend because his weigh-ins were today, so it's on Friday or Saturday. But he's fighting in Ireland, and they were like, "Why do you want to go to Ireland?"
Is it pay-per-view?
I think it's pay-per-view. It's gonna be badass though, because that kid's fun to watch. His the way that he can switch up stances and the way that he can hit, not get hit, and move. Is just it's so elegant. It's like watching him. I would say it's like listening to like classical music. It's just like watching the switch up and the
like
just kind of
fucking-
moving. It's so elegant.
What was the dude from Boondock Saints when he puts on the
Yeah,
music?
yeah.
It's like doing
Willem
detective
Dafoe.
shit.
Willem
What
Dafoe.
an amazing
He's going-
fucking scene.
That was one of those movies when they came out with the second one. I'm like, this is a shit
Why?
sandwich.
Like,
why are
would
you
do
doing this? Because it's like you can't capitalize off of something I've never seen before.
It'd be like making a second Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, I've never seen like same thing. Reservoir Dogs is so good that you're like, I thought it was pretty good. It's kind of boring. It's boring, but you're still interested. But Boondock Saints.
I'm down with the
not.
cult classic of it though. Like it's like a cult classic.
Yeah.
it's
The
it's
ear-
kind of like kids.
The ear part just
Yeah, the ear part.
that messed me up so bad.
When what's his name? When
Rip Torn. Well, no, not Rip Torn.
no, what's his name was Bleed and
Yeah.
that was like some of the best acting.
Mr.
I was
Orange.
Like, yeah, I was like, dude, you really sound like you're fucking.
Yeah,
dying
you
right now.
really-
You really like.
What happens if you found out he's like a method actor and they're like, did you really stab yourself? And he's like, yeah, I
it was
really stabbed
wild.
myself in
And
the
then-
stomach.
But then at the end, when you find out he was the fucking.
He's the
wild.
oh, I don't think we're spoiling anything.
No,
It's been 25
no,
years,
no.
bro. He's the
Yeah.
rat, bro. He's
Yeah.
the rat. He's a
Yeah, he's
freaking
the
stool pigeon. But that movie, when I first watched it, I didn't know. I went in it blind. I had no idea what it was about. Like
Did you
people
know
were
who
like,
Quentin was?
yeah, I knew who he
Yeah.
was, but people were like, when like I hung out with older people and they're like, yo, bro, you got to watch Reservoir
yeah.
Dogs. So I'm watching
Which
Reservoir.
is already an old movie by the time you were watching it.
By the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
I was, so they're like, you got to watch it. So then I watch it and I'm like, at the end, I'm like, holy
shit! What I just
shit,
watched.
What the
that
hell
was how
was
I felt.
that?
That was how I felt when I watched Scarface for the first time. I was
Yeah.
like, whoa.
I was scared actually. The music scared me.
I hid the DVD from my mom. I had to like get it from this kid who like had an older brother who had it. He stole it from his brother, sold it to me,
I sold it to you.
And
I sold it to the dude that you got.
and I was like, yeah, I was probably like 10 or 12 when we were watching it. It was like middle school.
I mean, that's about right, but it's still a scary movie.
No, it wasn't even scary. It was just like holy shit. Like I didn't realize that like movies could be this bad. Like
Dark.
I remember watching Howard Stern Private Parts, stealing that from my dad just because there was titties in
yeah,
it.
there's
And I
yeah,
thought I had a
yeah,
porno.
Yeah, you're like,
I thought I had a
Jesus.
porno.
That's what Titanic was. For a lot of young
And
boys.
I remember I got mad because I put it in. And I was like, "Where are the private parts? Like, where's?"
Enough laughter.
Yeah, I was like, what the
Where are
fuck?
the boobs?
Yeah,
Um,
dropped a new single today.
you dropped a new
It
single.
was the one you were talking about. It was one that you really liked. Directions.
No, that is great. Yeah, I shared it.
Yeah.
I shared it
Oh
twice.
yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
Twice.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's I really like that. I really like that song. I like the other one that's gonna drop too.
Oh, yeah,
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, but no, directions.
How's that going?
It's good. I had a couple people ask me like if it was about my dad, and I just want to like clarify. It's not about my dad.
Yeah,
Like people, you know what I mean? Like,
it's not about my dad either,
no,
folks.
it was like it was a testament to what society, just from the norms that we face in everyday life, from what you see on social media, from the interactions you have with people. There's a way that we are taught that we are supposed to live our lives, and it was strictly from like not strictly, but it was mostly from the male perspective or the male point of view of like, be a tough guy, boys don't cry, keep your chin up, like don't let them see you sweat, like all that stuff that I put in the song was like lessons that were taught to you. And don't get me wrong, like in certain terms, it's like, yeah, but like a lot of us were taught not to be expressive and not to have the feelings and not to be able to be the strongest guy in the room emotionally.
Yeah.
Just be the strongest guy in the room because you're in your head putting everything out of your head and you're saying, no, I'm just going to act like this doesn't happen. I just had this conversation today with somebody and they were like, dude, you have been through some stuff that you refuse to talk about, I mean, that you refuse to address, and she's like, and you have this great ability to take it and you put it in the back of your head and you say, fuck it, I'm not going to think about it until it rears its head later on when something happens and something gets triggered and that little piece of information comes back into your memory and it does something to you and it's not good because you've never addressed it. And that is exactly what this song was about, of like, we have been trained to do that for so long and not ask for the help that we need and not ask for the directions. That's like the whole thing, like the chorus, like the real men don't ask for directions. Like that was such a thing that I heard growing up, was like that men don't ask for direction. But it was just like one of those things like, oh, men are stubborn, men or whatever. But it's like, it's really became like a cliche as to like, I've really seen my dad be like, no, I'm not going to ask for directions.
Yeah.
I definitely used it as obviously it's a metaphor.
It's emotional immaturity you're talking about.
Absolutely. I'm talking, but
and
also being trained, like being taught that that's the
like,
right way.
don't do that. And you're like, what are you,
like
really?
you know, like when a kid gets hurt in the park and you see his dad be like, yo, don't cry, come on, don't cry, we don't cry. It's like, oh man, like
my dad used to say, are you bleeding? And I go, no. He goes, well, then stop crying. But then I would go, sometimes I wouldn't, and I'd be like, ow. And he'd be like, are you bleeding? I'd be like, yeah. He's like, all right, you can cry a little bit.
Well, I think there's a, because even like me having to raise my daughter, I know when something happens, like a lot of the time there was the reaction thing, right? If she falls and you don't do the, she'll just kind of just look and just be like, and like if you just look, just stare at it, and then she'll just kind of be like, oh, I mean it hurts a little bit, but it's not. But it's also it's like the, you know, you have to teach them not overreact, but also like deal with your shit.
Yeah, like if it hurt.
Right now I'm dealing with that with my daughter. Like I'm trying to get her to talk to me. Like when things go wrong, I'm like,
be expressive.
I'm like, hey, why are you feeling this? What made you feel like this? What can I do, you know, in the future so that you don't feel like this? And I'm just trying to hear her out, and she has this fucking block. She just doesn't want to like say, like, to the point where we were like, well, maybe we should find somebody that she could talk to and get her stuff that she feels comfortable with. And she has like a friend who's in therapy and stuff. So she asked me about therapy. I'm like weirded out that my kid wants to go to therapy, but I'm also like kind of like, okay, proactively, like this could be really good just to get her, you know, whatever.
Because you want her to talk,
but she just won't talk to me. Like I'll you know, and I'm dad. I'm still like, you know, I still got a smidgen of superhero in me for the age that she is.
Yeah.
So like. But it is starting to get to the point where like she won't talk to me about things.
Maybe you complain about so little that sometimes kids, adult people, they just don't complain to you.
She has a really hard time accepting like when she does something wrong. Like I don't think she's realized that there's levels of getting in trouble. You know, like there's like, okay, there's...
Oh, she just thinks getting in trouble is like the worst thing.
At school where like, okay, you didn't charge your computer today. Very minimal. If me and you were thinking about it right in the... It's like, dude, you know...
But she's like,
Yeah, so, but she doesn't understand like the bigger picture of like, hey, in 2 years, what you did in second grade isn't going to matter, you know? Which is something that we go through. I remember being in high school thinking that like, you know, if you missed a party or you did something wrong or whatever it was the biggest thing in the world, then you think about it 10 years from now and you're like, what the fuck, who cares about that fucking... Fuck that kid, you know, But
I never missed a party. I'll tell you that.
At the time, you know, it was the most important thing in the world to you, like the environment that you're in. So it's weird to have. It's like I just want her to be able to step out and see the bigger picture of life. But it's hard to do that for a 7-year-old. Obviously.
But going back to the song. So the song, like having something like that, I think people get like messed up. Men, I think, get messed up with like, hey, like. The old stereotypes of like what makes men was what made men different, and then they just kind of exploited those things. My thing is now is what I found with like the best and most balanced men in my experience in being around really strong really strong people, like I mean mentally, physically disciplined, all of those things. I find that they have a high emotional IQ, so they can discipline their emotions better. So they would go, why wouldn't you ask for directions right now? So instead of being like, I'm not asking for directions, like, and they would do that. I know plenty of, how many people do we know that would do that? Well, not me.
Well, I had to change my pride, right? So there's so many times where I watch people.
They do it. It's annoying as shit.
Fuck up their big picture because of their pride. And like, something will happen along the way of the journey. And they will throw everything out because of their pride, whether it's like, you know, and just in the time that I've seen, a lot of it was like, you know, let's say, you know, you have a job now.
Yeah.
You're working with somebody, you have a legit, you know, whatever. And then somebody tests your pride on something that could easily be like, you know what, the bigger picture is for me to say, fuck you right now, not to worry about it, because I know in 2 months that will pay off and I'll be able to be like, sucker, whatever. But they won't let that happen. They're going to handle it right now, and they punch you in the face or they do something that they shouldn't, you know, whatever it may be. Because, you know, just, you know.
Well, it's just,
and then all of a sudden now it's like, oh damn, like if I had just shut the fuck up and didn't let my pride get to me, but kept that same pride and said, my pride is gonna make me shut the fuck up right now, so that later on I can have my prideful moment, and then I'll go laugh in your face and be like, fuck you, dude, I did it.
Well, you could do it. You could do it. That's
just examples of things that I've seen where people like fuck up their opportunity because they are, you know, and like they want to prove their point that they're like a real man, and they like punch somebody in the face. It's
that's always the worst case, and I can equate it. this happened to me the other day, and this is like a couple of weeks ago.
You punched somebody in the face? No, I'm just kidding.
I did. No, but I had a moment where I know, right?
I like this.
You like this hoodie?
Yeah. Carry on. No, my bad.
Yeah. Why, you want one? You want one?
I'll buy one for me.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one.
No.
I didn't give you a Christmas gift. I felt bad about it.
I didn't give you a Christmas gift either.
The gift is having you here, brother. So, no, but so what happened was I in real time had somebody say something to me, and I was like,
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking.
What?
I'm just picturing like me wearing the Scope Fitness shirt, just like outside, like eating candy, smoking a cigarette.
I know
one
it's
day.
gonna look bad. I should have regret. After I did just offer you that hoodie, I went, I don't want to see this motherfucker.
Stuff in my face with Dunkin' Donuts munchkin. Just like,
you're just
Scope
vaping.
Fitness.
You're just vaping, and I'm like, oh god. If people are like, where do you go? Like, don't tell them my place. Like, I stole this.
I'm telling you, I just shoot a podcast.
Yeah,
there,
I stole this.
I bought gloves. I never used them yet.
So no, I had this dude. He like said something to me, and I'm sitting there, and it got to me like what he said, and it was about business. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I kind of was quiet, and then spoke up about how I felt like he was, that was wrong. Not wrong in the sense like this, but I was just, hey, I disagree with you. I think this is why. And then he kind of said something, and I was like, Then I sat there like this. I went, let's just stop here. He doesn't see what I'm seeing. I'm being disciplined and calculated, and he's focusing on passion and just blind passion. Like, we can do this because we can do this. And I was like, okay. So then I looked back and I said, how well do you know this person? How well do you know their business? How well do you know their plan? And I looked at it and I said, you're not broke, but I wasn't going to be like, I have more money than you, but I was like, I'm doing better than you financially. I'm doing better than you in my relationship. I have a life that I love and understand. I don't want your life. So why would I start practicing and taking advice from you if you have something I don't want?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm going...
You're saying you're bad to take advice from.
Yeah, bad to take business advice from, or even personal advice right now, because I'm in a good place in these three categories. The people who are never take advice from people for two things: who are doing worse than you, and never take advice from people whose lives you don't want. So I let it get to me, but in real time, I went, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. Why am I taking advice from this person? Yeah. And why would I? Like, I have such good people around me for business, for friendship, for love, for family. Like, I have all the people that I want. All the people that are in my family that I love that are around me all the time. There's a reason. Yeah. Business, there's a reason. It's because they fuel me and I fuel them. And that's a big deal. But if you have somebody who's sitting there like, you know what you need to do, and you're like, bro, like, you have nothing, including the financial part, that I don't want, especially business. When you talk business, people think that it's a passion-driven thing. It's passionate, but you need to have the principles and disciplines to stay consistent and actually work. You can't just throw passion on the wall and then be like, oh, it's gonna take off. No, you need good, structured, disciplined decisions. Otherwise, you're just like everybody else with just a dream. You're not putting it towards anything.
There's a lot of people that I run into from my past experiences.
You're like, you know what you need to do. You're like,
artists I used to work with or whatever. Yeah, and like I used to be in a completely different lane than what I'm doing now, mm-hmm. and it's no disrespect to any of them. Like, I wasn't fit for that lane. And
it's no disrespect. It's not disrespect. It's knowledge.
Not. But they just and so like I've learned a lot about myself, the game, the business side of everything, and they'll come up to me and be like, "Yo, man, you really should do." You should do this X, Y, and Z. And in my head, I'm like, if I explain to you right now why that probably won't make sense.
You don't have to explain it.
So it's like, I get that a lot of like, yo, how come you're not doing this? How come you're not doing this? You should do this. You should do that. And it's like, well, maybe I'll take it into consideration. But also, there's a lot more that we know that they don't know. So I don't get offended by the suggestions. It's just sometimes I would like, and I have a couple people that I'll go into like long. There's only a couple people in my group. Well, no, everybody in my group, I'll have this conversation. That's why they're in my group. But there's not many people that I'll have the conversation with of like what I should do, or really any talk of like how I'm gonna move, or what moves I should make. There's only a few people that I really will be like, hey man, what do you think about this? And then like genuinely take their, and don't get me wrong, like it's no disrespect to anybody, but just like I have a team that knows what we have the same mind.
I love how worried you get when you say it. You're like, no disrespect. I'm like, bro, I'm gonna say this.
No, it's just exactly what you're saying. Like I don't want to follow somebody who like I don't want what you have.
Exactly.
Like I don't think there's no reason for me to believe that the advice you're giving me is gonna help me.
I think the people that are giving advice or maybe a little bit of direction, I think those people you would know. I think like those people, like the ones that you would listen to, are giving you advice because they know you'll listen. But there's people who are just so like, I had a dude.
Well, you have to understand too if they see your vision as well, because if they don't, they're going to tell you to do something that's completely out of the blue and be like, "Oh, you don't understand this."
But
at all.
I had a guy who was trying to give me training advice. Right, this dude's giving me training advice. Like, and I'm not this guy on this high hill type of thing. I'm not saying that. But bro, you had two companies that you ran into the ground. It's like, I can't take advice from you. He was like, you know what you should do? You should. I'm like, go on. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to take advice from you right now because that's a silly thing to do. My thing is like, I'll take advice from these people who have lives like you're saying that you actually want. Mm. So if you want to do something, do anything, look up. Try not to focus on what all these people are saying to you. Blah 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 blah. It's like, focus on somebody who you go, I like what they have, or I like their life. I enjoy it. I like spending time with them. They seem like good people. Take advice from that person. It's like, or you know what? I was watching this. What is it? Kevin, was it Gates? He said, he's like, go in a room, sit in a room by yourself. Think about the things you're grateful for. Think about the things that make you sad. Think about the things that you want in your life. Do those things. Come out of that room and apply it to this real, now coming out into the room and like into that real situation. I think that's a great piece of advice. I found a notebook that I wrote. I think I talked about this before. I found a notebook that I wrote in 2000. A whole
bunch of those old essays we used to make on the notebooks.
Yeah. I did have that in there. It's funny because I was like doodling in class, but it was in 2014. I wrote down all my business goals and I checked all of them off, and I had one that wasn't checked off. It said, find a woman. I said, find a woman and keep her and make sure that you love her. Like this, and then I know it sounded. I'm like, it off. Gotcha, bitch. Cut. Yeah.
End of movie.
End of movie.
I see it.
Yeah. But it was nice. Cute. It was like 10 things.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It felt good to like see that it's actually, I think, in there. I'll show you. It's pretty wild.
I found some old notebooks that I had. Old like rhyme books and shit, and it was just fun. Nah. No, it was just, it's funny. Like bad? Even that, I mean, they weren't like maybe for my age they were good, but like at the same time, like it's
some Malibu's Most Wanted stuff.
I am so happy that I had.
I love that movie.
I think just the slightest bit amount of talent, and then confidence, and maybe some people that were really gassing me up around me. And I know it sounds stupid to say I thank them, but I was able to transform into the sound I have now. Where when I hand somebody, some music, I'm like, okay, this is good. I signed, and the thing about this is, at the time, I signed off on it, so I'm cool with that because it shows my improvement over time. Now, I would never in my life have made some of these tunes that I was listening to. I was like, wow, this is old.
But it's okay.
Yeah, no, of course,
that's
absolutely, absolutely. So I was like,
and you have this, you have right now the stamp of your approval. You enjoy your sound.
Oh, I love, like, to me, if I hand you music, it is 100%, Ian Matthew.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, no, that's why, like, if you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't
because it's not for you.
Because it's not for you.
Yeah,
but it's also not me trying to cater to you and be somebody that I'm not. I'm trying to do something that, like, this is 100%, like, there's been a couple records where, like, if I've like teared up writing them or teared up recording them, where they really mean that much to me, man. Like, there's some really fun ones that mean as much to me too. They might not be as emotional, but they're fun as fuck, and that's an emotion that I feel as well. And I've always said, sometimes I wake up and I feel like I'm ready to rock, and then sometimes I feel like I want to go hide under a rock. Yeah. So a really cool. Excuse me. It's a really cool example of like what an everyday, or maybe not every day, but like what my life is as far as like happy, sad. Like I was talking to somebody the other day. Shout out to Bree, Brianna Maya. She does indie hour lives on her Instagram. Send in some music and she plays it. You get a little feedback. And I had sent her in directions prior to it coming out, and she played it, and the reception was really good. So it made me feel really good about releasing this new record.
It's huge.
Yeah. So it's cool, man. It's
yeah,
I'm excited about all the stuff we got.
It's mimicry becomes authenticity after practice. So what you had is you were mimicking the people and mirroring, because that's what you have to do in the beginning, because you don't know yet. So you develop into who you are with practice, with
100%.
And when you get to authenticity, that's when you know. And that's what you said, and I'm glad you actually said that. You said it's not for everybody. It's for the people who it's for.
Yeah,
and that's important.
It's funny, man, because I grew up in the hip hop genre, man. I shouldn't say grew up. Like I came up in a punk band, started doing hip hop music, and like I said, I dive into I do my research on these genres. I don't go into them and try and be a part of them, because in hip hop is different. And hip hop is you're asking to be part of a community. You know what I mean? And as a white dude trying to be part of the hip hop community, you have to at least respect it enough to know the culture and the people that came before you. And so I've always been a hip hop head, and I've always studied hard on hip hop, and you can hear that certain eras of when I was releasing music, who I was like really listening to hard and who I was being influenced by. Like you can hear like a Pimp C is influenced. You can hear like an Outkast or a Lil Wayne influence, and it's so funny when I listen back and I'm like, oh, I finally learned how to take these guys' influences and not mimic them, but genuinely take the influence of the like. To me, it was always like I figured it out. I was always like, what did I love about Outkast so much?
Well, it's flattering.
What did I love about Pimp C and UGK so much? And
I think your ego gets involved. A lot of artists in the beginning, because they're like, I'm me, and you're like, no, you're not. And it's and the problem is it's okay to have influences, mirroring, mimicking. It's when you know you're doing that, you actually know that you're trying to find yourself, because you're doing what they did. They mimicked somebody. They did it too.
Oh, no,
and if you do it after a while, you evolve, and you've been doing it for so long that you didn't give up. You kept going. I imagine when a lot of people told you should.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, well, you're still doing that? And then I get that too. I had a girl, I was like, fuck you. But she was like, you're still doing the trainer thing? I'm like, yeah, that trainer thing makes,
X amount of
it
money,
makes a lot of money, and I feel really good, and I help a lot of people. So I was like, and I wanted to be like, what are you doing? But then I look at her life, I go, don't want it, don't care, so it doesn't matter. So for you, doing it for that long period of time and seeing this authenticity, I think that's why you're gaining in popularity. That's why you're getting more views, more plays, more shares, more that, because now you are your authentic self. Yeah. You can come out, somebody can say something to you, and you're like, I'm me, man. It's not for you. It's okay. It's fine. And that gives you legitimate fans.
It's like power. It's a power to just keep doing what you want to be doing and not be.
If you mean power, it gives you juice.
It gives you the juice. It gives you the self-confidence. And to me, that's a power.
I think it gives you strength, endurance. It gives you the ability to endure in a real positive way, because you're like, cool. Like if somebody's like, hey, I didn't like it, and you see that comment. Let's just say you have 100 positive comments, because the same thing. It's 100 positive and then one negative, and you're like, but it gives you the strength and endurance to skip over that and go, hey, thanks, or to all the other people, and you ignore everything else, because that's what it is. You just have to have that. If you don't,
I mean,
life would chew you up and spit you out.
I've released, still to this day, my second best streaming record, my best streaming solo record that I did completely by myself is Ashtray.
Yeah.
It came out 2018 and early 2019 maybe, but still to this day. So to me, it's like I hit a really big high on that, and it's still streaming. It's still doing well.
I listen to it like once a week,
and I have released X amount of music afterwards, which hasn't reached that same height. But it's one of those things where I'm not doing it to reach that same height. That height was great for me. The people that hit me up on the records and they DM me and they say, "Hey man, I had a really bad, month, and this record has helped me through it." That is what I do it for. And I took 6 months off from releasing music because I felt like some of the music I was releasing, not really, but it was just, I wasn't as like connected with it. I felt like it was just becoming kind of like a mill of like,
you called yourself out though.
We got to do it. Yeah, we're just doing it to keep up with the attention, and it becomes like going for the viral moment, and you get caught up in the social media thing. And it's one way to use social media for your business and make sure everybody knows you're there. And it's one thing to just strive for this one thing that, obviously may never happen, but it's also like you could be doing so much more when you're not striving for that and just doing it for one reason. And so I stepped back for like 6 months from releasing music, and I was like, okay, what do I really love? Like, what is it that I absolutely adore about music? And it was like, why do I love so many different genres, right? And I remembered, I'm like, every time you listen to, like, dude, I put on the blues playlist the other day, and Elmore James came on, and I was like, I had goosebumps and I was listening to it in my car, and I was like, this is why I do it. I'm like, I want somebody to put on an Ian Matthew record and feel that. And I was like, but you can't get somebody to feel that if you don't put that into it. If I don't walk into the studio and say, this song is 100% Ian Matthew. And that's the thing. It can, me and my manager, we co-write a lot, you know what I'm saying? And what the deal is like, he may write an insane chorus or an insane start to a verse, and I'm like, I really like that. And I take it, and then I say, how does this touch to me?
Yeah.
And then I craft it so that it can be relatable. I'm not telling you that this exact story has to be yours, but this emotion that I felt from this story, I bet you felt it before. I want to see if you felt this before, because one, I want to make sure that I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
But two, I want you to know that maybe if you have felt like this, hey, you're not crazy either. You
Yeah,
know? And now I go into it, and like the Directions thing, man, the Directions is a real life song. Like, that's real, bro. Like, I listen to that and I'm like, holy shit, I know where every single line came from.
Yeah.
And it's not.
You're like, I was there. I felt it. It was my pen.
And then when I put it out, and it was just a post on Instagram, I was like, hey, what do you think about this? Because I was in Colorado when I wrote it, and I remember sitting in the mountains, and I was like, we are so small.
Yeah.
I was like, if I got lost right now, I could never get home.
Yeah.
And that was the kind of where, like, I thought about directions and blah, blah, blah. And that's where the whole hook started. It started me just being humbled by these mountains. And so, like, I know these stories. When I perform these, and when I sing the song, if someone says, yo, I really felt your voice, I'm like, good, I'm glad. Because I felt it too when I was singing it. That's why I think we made this connection. Not just like, oh, it sounded like a cool. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for all of that. There's a time and a place for the record that, like, you just know is going to be a fun record. But then these ones that I have right here are the ones where I'm like, if you guys really want to know about me and more, and I think that's where it becomes way more valuable to me.
Well, the experiences become valuable because with the new experiences,
Absolutely.
You can put those to pen. You put those down on a piece of paper, and then you put it out into, you put it out into the universe, and you put it out to people's ears, and like I said, it's almost like they hear the experience. So when they hear the experience, you can trigger those types of emotions where they'll champion you. They'll go, this is him, and it's not that, I hate when people say nobody sounds. Nobody's making me feel that way. You are making me feel this way. I'll remember that because people remember that stuff. So when music, when it moves you to the point of where it's like, wow, you're just like, wow, that's the thing. And they did that. Just songs will do that to you, man. I had some songs do that to me this past week, and it is, these songs will rattle you to your core, and it's like, that's why they're so popular.
So this is that's exactly what I'm talking about. I remember when one of my best friends passed away. The music that I listened to became part of my grieving.
Yeah.
Became, I still have a song right now where if I put it on, I can almost guarantee I'll shed a tear.
Yeah.
This song, and it was crazy, and that's what I love about music too, is music has like no lifeline. It's like there's songs that I heard when I was a kid that I had no idea what they were talking about, and I will listen to them now and be completely in love with them and be completely enamored from them. They're like from 1970, but it's almost like they came out today because I'm just
you're learning that emotional,
and that's where I'm starting to put focus on is like, if somebody were to capture this, because I look at my old music and it's like a time capsule, and I look and I'm like, well, I'm not that person anymore. Like even the stuff I was, putting in my music, I'm like, I'm not that person anymore. I would never stand behind that anymore. So it's like, if you take this time capsule that I'm in now, I genuinely think that in 30 years I'll be like, oh, I remember that guy.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you're gonna change.
Of course, absolutely, of course, we're gonna, but I'll still be proud of this guy.
Oh yeah, because it's like, I remember that place in my life and that's important. Yeah. I think that's important to put your stamp on honor and putting out authenticity and doing that. I think that's huge, and it's the way that more people should be. But I know that it's a hard road, man, because you have to be honest with yourself, and I know most people don't want that. It's hard to do, but I love it, and I want to talk to you a little bit about it after this, the two song that song, and then that. Where can they find it?
Everywhere: Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Amazon, SoundCloud, YouTube, anywhere you get music. Ian Matthew, my new single is Directions. It took me a whole lifetime to write. Just didn't realize it was getting written, I suppose.
Yeah, get out there and get it, or I'll hate you. I said what I said. Are we leaving? Are we out?
I think it's time.
I think it's time. Namaste, guys. Namaste.
We didn't put the bags on the table.
Oh, man. It's all good. We're out.
I'm going to put my bag on your table, Ben.
You don't do it. You don't do it.
I'm going to put my nuts in your drum sack. I have my nuts in your drum sack.